So yeah, just to start off, just by saying, as I say, these workshops are a kind of partnership with Climate Action Fife and Fife Climate Hub, and Climate Action Fife is a Fife-wide partnership project. It brings together individuals, communities, local government, and businesses to tackle the climate emergency and make Fife a greener and fairer place to live. Fife Climate Hub is a Fife Communities Climate Action Network project. It empowers community-led action on the climate crisis, builds capacity of existing community groups who are working on climate. It delivers stronger collaboration and reaches beyond climate engaged to grow a diverse network across Fife. So I'm Rory Syme. I'm the communications lead at Greener Kirkcaldy. Also play quite a important role in Climate Action Fife as kind of comms lead there, and helping me out, kind of reading the comments, letting people into the room, is my colleague Andrea Harrower, who is communications and events coordinator at Greener Kirkcaldy. Um, so I'm just going to start by sharing my screen. Yeah, just quick kind of run through of the agenda today. So we've kind of done the introductions. I will kind of do a quick kind of check-in in a second. We'll go on to talk about different kinds of AI tools, and just kind of explain what they are, the different things that they can do. We will kind of talk about some of the kind of ethics and issues around using AI. So there's environmental issues, qualities issues, issues around kind of intellectual property, and then we'll do a bit of summary, and then hopefully we'll have some time for questions at the end. So yeah, I was just going to kind of move on to just kind of, I guess, kind of start talking about AI tools, and what that term actually means. I should obviously point out that AI stands for artificial intelligence. Um, and typically when we talk about AI tools, things like ChatGPT, we're talking about generative artificial intelligence. And what that really means is these are kind of big programs that have been fed huge amounts of information. So I think in the case of ChatGPT, basically the entirety of the internet has kind of been fed into this program, and much like a search engine, much like something like Google would do when you put a kind of prompt, you ask it for information, it'll send information back out. So it'll kind of go to this library of resources that it has. It'll say, yeah, I've seen something similar to that, and it will kind of produce an output, um, which is kind of based on kind of things that it's seen before. So if you ask it about cats, it'll kind of look up all the cats and it'll go, okay, I'd like, and then it'll kind of give you a cat back. Um, so yeah, so these tools, they can do different things, but yeah, typically, so they'll use a thing called a prompt. So you ask it for some information, and based on that, it'll create text. They can do images. Some programs can even create videos and even kind of audio. So for example, you can kind of turn text into speech. I can do this remarkably quickly. I will kind of demonstrate that shortly. Um, and it's fair to say, so most of the tools, so things like ChatGPT, they are what's called freemium, which is a horrible word, but it basically means it's free up to a point. So you can kind of log into these programs. You can get a certain amount of kind of uses, and then it'll say if you want any more, you're gonna have to pay us. And quite often, so these tools be for the kind of sort of licenses that can come in around about kind of twenty pounds a month, something like that. So it can be quite expensive, but you might find that, and certainly for the amount of use that a community group might do, you might just be able to use the free version, and get enough out of that, for what you want to do. So there's a couple of things that AI tools are not. So despite the name, they're not really intelligent in the same way that a person is intelligent. As I say, so these are models. They've been given a huge amount of information to consume, and they can only really feed, kind of digest that information and regurgitate it back. So these programs they don't have imaginations. They don't have any real understanding of what things are, in the same way that people might. So, you know, this program only knows what a cat is because it can kind of search cat and lots of images which have the same kind of makeup will come back. Um, so yeah, not human. Um, they're also not perfect. They're renowned for kind of basically kind of feeding out kind of minor errors. Um, if you look at human, I guess, images of people that AI's created, they're famously terrible at doing hands. So hands will quite often have six, seven, eight fingers. They'll just look wrong. Um, and yeah, they're also not free. So obviously, I've kind of talked there about the price, the kind of financial cost. Um, but I think an increasing area that people are talking about, and in my opinion should be talking about more, is the kind of large environmental impact of these tools. And we'll talk about that a bit more kind of later on. So I mentioned prompts, and this is really, I guess this is kind of where the human kind of comes in. And prompts are basically the instructions that are given to create the information that these tools give out. And I always would just always kind of relate this back to like a search engine like Google. So if you want information into Google, you have to put out from Google, you have to put information in. So you have to kind of type in what you want to search for. Um, what you'll find with things like ChatGPT is they're very good at reading quite complicated instructions. Um, they can kind of read natural language, so you don't have to have any kind of skills in coding, any sort of technical knowledge to get things out of these programs. You can write very basic and simple questions. It'll understand it, and you can make things more complicated from there. Um, Fair to say, so the more detailed the prompts that you give these programs, I guess the better quality you'll get back out. Obviously if you ask a very basic question, it'll give you a very basic response. And if you add things in, it'll kind of work on that and interpret it. Um, and then what you can also find is if things aren't quite right. So you look at what's written, you say, actually, I would have preferred you to have written that in a more friendly way. It'll go back and it'll think, actually, yeah, like here's another version. Is this what you're looking for? Um, so yeah, so you can kind of work from there. Um, so yeah, so I guess the basic kind of types of these tools. So things the thing I suspect most people will be familiar with is kind of text to text. So you put text in, you get text out. That's how, for example, ChatGPT works. There's also text to image tools, which, as the name suggests, if you write some text, you'll get an image back. And I think ChatGPT has kind of recently added that feature. You can also use Canva. Um, has some good tools for making images, which we'll kind of look at in a second. Um, there's also tools that will kind of make videos. So you can basically write like an entire screenplay and kind of feed it into this into this app, and it'll make a video back, and I'll show an example of that. And increasingly, things that we're kind of noticing and seeing and looking into are, I guess, what I could call productivity tools. So kind of programs that could kind of read some text you've written, that'll kind of point out spelling mistakes, where you could improve the grammar, the kind of readability. Um, I think, as I mentioned, so we're actually using a tool this afternoon, to actually kind of listen to this session, and it'll produce a little summary of kind of what we've been talking about. So yeah, just a whole range of kind of different products are kind of out there, and yeah, I think that's only going to get bigger as kind of technology develops. So I think at this point I was just going to switch over um, and actually just kind of demonstrate, I suppose, some of these tools in action, and just to hopefully kind of demonstrate what. what I was just been talking about. So this is ChatGPT. Some of you may have kind of seen the screen. Um, what you'll see when you kind of first go onto ChatGPT is you'll kind of be asked to make an account, and that's a very simple process. Um, you can then kind of go on and you can if you're kind of in a position to do you can kind of pay them money for extra features, etc. But this is basic, um, dead simple ChatGPT. So I'm going to ask GPT to do something very simple, and I'm just going to write it to ask it to write a novel. So it's going to go off, and it's going to start thinking about that. Um, oh, in fact, it's asking me a question now. So it didn't do that. It didn't do that early this morning. So I will just say you could choose, and it should just fire away. And yeah, so you can see that very quickly, um, ChatGPT has gone off. It's seen all the novels on the internet. I could write a novel, um, and it's written the start of what is probably a fairly serviceable kind of bit of text. Um, Probably a more useful thing to do um, would be to get it to actually look at some text. Um, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go on the BBC News and I'll find a story about climate change. Going to look for a positive story about climate change, which can be difficult in today's world. Um, there you go. Not quite a positive story, but anyway, so what I will do is I'll just take all of this text from this article, um, and just quickly drop this into ChatGPT. And what I'll do, so I'll ask it to write a. So I guess just what I was saying about when you kind of start to develop prompts, you can get it to kind of do more advanced things. So I'm going to ask it to write a multiple choice quiz with three questions aimed at 10-year-olds. Oops, 10-year-olds. Um, and then, so yeah, so as you see very quickly, it's read this article. It's kind of found things that could be kind of turned into multiple choice questions. You can see it's made a couple of mistakes. So I've asked it for three questions. It's only given me two. But obviously could go back and say, actually, I would rather have a third one. And I think because I've said aim this at 10-year-olds, it's given some fairly simple questions. It's quite simple language there, quite short sentences. Um, so if I said, write the same quiz aimed at postgraduates, um, it's going to come up with, I guess, just like slightly more difficult and kind of more advanced kind of topics. So yeah, so as I say, so you can get it to create information. You can go back and get it to do clarifications, um, and yeah, you can basically ask it to anything you want. So if I said write a limerick poem about this article, obviously it can figure out and find out what a limerick is, the kind of structure of that sort of poem, and it'll go off. So and type that, and again very quickly. So yeah, you can see that there's the kind of rhyming structure. of a limerick there. Um, so yeah, I guess those are just a kind of few examples of what you can do with something like ChatGPT. It's also talked about text to images, and we had um, we actually ran a workshop on Canva a few weeks ago, which I think I might be covering a bit of ground that Andrea looked at in that workshop. But again, just to kind of demonstrate some of this. So this is, I think, a feature called Dreamlab in Canva. And Canva is a tool that's available for free for nonprofit organizations, including charities. So it can be quite a good thing to look into. And so yeah, to start off, I'm just going to say simply, I'm interested in a cat. So I've written cat, and then I'm going to click create, and it's going to think about cats for a little while and come back with something. So there you are, some nice ginger cats. It was doing white fluffy cats again when I looked at this morning. But obviously I've not specified um, anything at all. Um, so I probably want to make this a bit more complicated. So if I said cat riding in a train carriage at a rural train station, and so outside the window is a hillside. This is one I prepared earlier, covered in trees, and the cat's grandmother is waving on the platform. So that's obviously a bit more a specific request. In Canva, you can kind of choose an artistic style. So I'll maybe go for what will we do? We'll ask it for an illustration. And so we'll ask it to think about this cat in the train carriage with the hillside covered in trees. And there you go. Again, very quickly, here are some images of what I'd asked for. Um, so obviously some interesting interpretations. So sometimes the grandmother is there in the carriage with the cat. Um, there's obviously two cats here waving, but actually just kind of open that up so you can kind of see it a bit better. But yeah, there's features that I've asked for here. There's a hillside covered in trees. There's a cat in the train. So again, you could kind of work away at that prompt. You could ask it for different things, and yeah, it would kind of go away. It would think about it, um, and it would kind of produce that. I guess to kind of demonstrate a limitation here, so we will ask it to show a family standing on Kirkcaldy High Street. Um, there are lots of cyclists, and it is a sunny day. And again, we'll maybe just stick to an illustration. I quite like that style. So going to set it away to think about Kirkcaldy High Street, cyclists and sunny days in the family. So here are families. It's in quite a dangerous situation. They seem to be standing right there in the middle of the traffic. Um, but yeah, so just to illustrate. So clearly, um, this is not Kirkcaldy High Street. To anyone who's familiar with Kirkcaldy, um, clearly Canva just doesn't have that concept. You can see it's tried to kind of think about Kirkcaldy High Street because on the fronts of the building, here are signs which misspelled say Kirkcaldy High Street. Um, Here's a family. Here are some cyclists. Yeah, I think one of the things that this kind of really tells me about is for groups who are kind of based in real communities, that using AI to kind of create some of these images isn't always going to be as helpful as all of that. So obviously, if Greener Kirkcaldy kind of shared this with the people that support us, they're going to quickly say, "Well, that's not Kirkcaldy." um, so yeah, so I guess an important point just to think about is that these tools are really good about general concepts. Um, Yeah, Jane. Actually, no, I didn't actually. It occurred to me, but no, I can. You can see on the prompt here. I spelled Kirkcaldy correctly, but yeah, for whatever reason, Canva's kind of misinterpreted that. Um, so yeah, they're not obviously not fantastic at that kind of generating text, kind of within images, and yeah, as I say, it's quite good as a generic photo of some people standing in the street looking happy. But if you really wanted to kind of show your own community, you're going to be better using a real life photograph or working with an illustrator, perhaps that could kind of create that and that knows the area that you're working in. But yeah, there's just a kind of few examples of AI generated images there. And then the next thing on my list, which I'm not going to have time to kind of create. So I've found something that somebody made earlier. So this is an example of an AI generated video, and it is a trailer for the Lord of the Rings. If Pixar made the Lord of the Rings, so I'm just going to play this now, and you can have a wee watch. So there you go, available soon in a cinema near you. I guess the kind of point of showing that is basically so that video will have been kind of made from basically just a really kind of fairly kind of detailed series of prompts to say, show me a close up of Bilbo Baggins, with holding a ring, and then shot by shot by shot. Um, they've obviously just kind of created that. Whether that's useful to community groups, unclear. But I think yeah, it just shows what the kind of potential is, and just kind of how advanced some of these AI tools can get. And yeah, so last on the list, I kind of mentioned productivity tools. And what I'm probably do, I'll send some in the kind of follow up to this chat. I'll to this meeting. I'll send some kind of links out to some of the tools that we've been looking at. And yeah, I think I mentioned we've got this Read AI is listening to this session and will hopefully make sense of it at the end. So it'll be interesting to see what it comes up with. So far so good. These tools are it's amazing. They can do loads of things. I guess it's worth thinking about if there's a kind of catch to all this. And I think there's for particularly groups who are um, working in communities and who are concerned about the environment. I think there's probably three kind of fairly specific areas where you kind of can see risks. Um, and I don't know if anyone's seen the film The Terminator. This is probably the most pessimistic view of AI you could imagine. But basically, the basic story of the film The Terminator is that basically I think the US military invents an AI which is kind of designed to protect America and run the military in the most efficient way possible. And this AI basically decides that the biggest threat to itself is the humans, because they're chaotic and destructive. And so the robots decide the best thing to do is to get rid of the humans. And yeah, explosions and Arnold Schwarzenegger one-liners kind of ensue from there. Um, I guess I'd like to take a slightly more optimistic view, and this is a film that actually Andrea introduced me to yesterday, um, which I think is called it's the Wild Robot. It's a kind of recent DreamWorks film, and what happens in this story is that a kind of robot wakes up on this planet, is waiting for some people to kind of come up and tell it what to do, and the only it's kind of beings it encounters are these kind of wild animals, such as this fox. So the robot goes around the planet, listens to all the animals, and in the end, and I guess because if you can remember that these tools are the kind of the product of what they've kind of consumed. The robot turns out to be really friendly and it helps all the animals, and the yeah, it's the planet is lovely as a result. So yeah, I guess it's the the main thing about these AI tools is they're built by people, for people, and yeah, really the way that people build them, the way that people use them, I guess ultimately kind of control uh what they end up doing and whether they're force for good or not. Um, so yeah, some kind of specific examples. So because these AI tools kind of reads and are fed from information that's on the internet, um, it effectively will reflect society's biases and its prejudices. So there are examples around sexism. Some researchers asked AI to um, take a like a kind of a headshot of a woman and complete the photograph, and something like 50% of the time it would put a bikini onto the woman's body. When they repeated that with a man, um, like a similar percentage, something like 50% of the time, it would put the man in the suit. And that's because it's seen all the images on the internet, um, and it's made its own conclusions about what men and women wear. Um, there are issues around racism. So similarly, I think there was a study around, um, show me a white person, and the white person would often be in a kind of professional setting. There'd be a lawyer or some such. They would be wearing a suit. And you say, show me a black person working, and quite often they would be in kind of manual positions. And yeah, so there's just this kind of prejudice that is reflected. In terms of ableism, there's an interesting bit of work that was done, where I think a kind of disabilities activist asked for 150 pictures of an autistic person, and 148, so a huge percentage of those, were young Finn men, and only two of the images were women. And again, this is just reflecting what how society kind of tends to kind of portray different groups, and then just kind of reflects it. The environmental costs, I say, I I think is starting to be talked about, and hopefully will continue to be talked about. So the ChatGPT queries that we were doing just then, each one of those consumes something like 10 times more energy than a simple Google search. Um, and yeah, 100 words email in ChatGPT is the equivalent of consuming just over one bottle of water. So yeah, I think it's just worth keeping in mind that that kind of using these tools it absolutely isn't free, from the kind of environmental point of view. Everyone has a kind of carbon cost. Everyone uses water, particularly. And then yeah, some concerns around kind of intellectual property, copyright, these sorts of issues. So as we say, so AI's all been trained on information that kind of people have created effectively. So if you got a tool to write your rock and roll song, it's going to have done that by listening to lots and lots of rock and roll songs that have been created by real artists. real musicians, none of whom are going to be credited or paid as a result of their kind of work being used. And then as we saw when we kind of looked at the Canva images, AI is terrible at authentic information. So you can get a generic or I guess a kind of imagined photo quite well, but if you ask it for a photo of a real area, a real community, it's obviously not going to be able to do that as well as a person can. Um, so yeah, so obviously I think those are quite big societal issues, and I guess what the answer to that is, I suppose in my view, um, it's important to actually check and look at any information that you get AI to create for you, and actually read it and make sure you're happy with it. I think it's important to use these tools to, I guess, kind of complement and enhance what people do, rather than kind of use it to replace people. So I wouldn't really use AI to write an entire article, but I might use it to um, create a short summary of something long that I'd written, or to kind of slightly change it for a different audience, just so that it's always got that. Just so I guess it's always kind of based in reality. It's always real. It's always about an actual organization. And yeah, I think ultimately we have to use these tools responsibly. And just if we are using them to be aware that everything that we do has a cost, whether that's to the environment or to an artist. Um, and yeah, just to at least to be conscious of that. Um, I think increasingly the government is slowly kind of developing regulations. Obviously, this is a really kind of fast moving um, world. I think ChatGPT has only really been around for a couple of years, so I guess kind of government's kind of slowly catching up to it. And then also groups themselves, you might actually just want to have a kind of written policy about how would you use AI, um, and yeah, just kind of take some of these issues into account in that. So yeah, so in summary, I've hopefully shown that AI can provide useful tools, and that they can help with communications, with making images, with um, editing and summarizing texts. That prompts are the way to really kind of get useful information out of them, and that yeah, if you kind of work on anything, it's kind of looking at the detail and things that are in your prompts and making sure that they get what you need out of them. Um, yeah, as I say, the tools are out there. They are reflective of the society that created them. So yeah, they embody that it's inequalities and biases. Um, Linked to that is the environmental and kind of particularly kind of carbon cost of these tools, and the kind of social cost that comes alongside that. But yeah, ultimately, um, there are there are ways that people are using AI to achieve social goods at the same time. Um, so that's that. I've obviously been talking for quite a long time. Um, I'm just wondering if does anyone have any questions?
It's not so much a question, it's a quibble. In one of your early slides, you talked about whether ChatGPT could understand something. It doesn't understand anything at all. It can process language, and it can look up all its databases of all the stuff it's read off the internet and kind of pull back from that. But it's not sentient. It doesn't have rules of understanding. It just reflects back something that it thinks. Well, I shouldn't say thinks. It's processing tells it. That's the problem. What looks good to us means that we think, oh, it's understanding. It's reflecting something that's real. all it's doing as a machine is going to databases and extracting information, turning them into natural language that looks good, and we impute to it, oh, it's intelligent, it makes sense. There is no reasoning in there. There is no sense. I mean, an example. I mean, it's very interesting to see. The reason I came on this was to find out what the tools were, because I'm sure we can use some of the visuals and stuff for things that we do. An example, we went off down to Northumberland around the time of the storm, and my stepdaughter said, oh, I'll ask ChatGPT for an itinerary for 3 days for an elderly couple and see what it comes up with. It was wrong. Things weren't open. The ChatGPT didn't say, when are they going? Because it's hugely different between January and July. There is no sense in there. There is just something that looks convincing. And if it suits you and it's written it better than you can and it's summarized it better than you can, that's great, you can use it. But you really, really have to double check everything and not believe it. I mean, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree 100% with with that point, Jane. And yeah, I think yeah, there's something to keep in mind with language there, because I think yeah, I will occasionally kind of carelessly straight into, ChatGPT's going to go off and have a think about this, and
Yeah,
yeah,
I
that's
do the
absolutely
same.
not. It's not at all what I mean, and what's actually happening in reality. So yeah, I think yeah, it's that really important point that a human has to be responsible for
Mm-hmm.
the information that goes out, sorry, that goes in, but also that comes out, and you have to, you do have to carefully read and check what's coming out.
So you ask for a novel, which is good because it can just make it up.
Yeah.
But if you ask for real information, you have to check every single bit of real information it comes back with. And it's not necessarily going to tell you the sources unless you ask for it.
Mhm.
I'm sorry to be a bit of a misery guts here, but
No, it is.
um,
I think, Jane, I think you're making one of my points for me. So I'm really happy that you're here and saying that. And I think yeah. So the typically what in real life where I've been using this, um, I've given it information. So I've already written a report, an article, and I said, summarize this in a few words for me, because I'm tired
mhm,
or
mhm.
I'm short of time. But yeah, I don't really trust it to, um, you know, um, I'm about to stray into the same language. I don't trust it to think for
No.
itself because it because it can't. Um,
I mean,
so
classic examples at the moment are things like people have asked it to multiply two quite big numbers together, which you and I could do with long multiplication, and it comes back with the wrong answer.
that's interesting. That's
And the reason is it's gone to look at all the text it's seen and has said to and searched for 1,496 million to, something really long times something else really long. And it's not there. So it just comes back with a number, any old number. So it really makes significant mistakes at times. That's why you have to double check anything you get out of it.
yeah.
Sorry, I worked in artificial intelligence for 13 years, and I've talked to other people who I knew there. And the real worries we have are loss of accuracy in the information that is out there. Because it's not just feeding on itself, right? You put in something, it tells you something that's wrong. You put it out there, and people believe you because you said Greener Kirkcaldy or North Queens Ferry Climate Action Network said blah de blah, and we were wrong. And that's your people's trust in you jeopardized. So it's really important. And also deep fakes, right? What we do not want is deep fakes.
Mm.
Sorry, Dorota, I'm taking over here.
No, I just wanted that it's a really good point. I think that maybe for the purpose of AIs or generally what else is going to be in the future, we probably will have to develop like a new language to like for the verbs. Yes, it's not thinking; it will be doing
Yeah.
something which we don't know yet how to name it. just to describe that it's not done by the human. So it's not understanding, it's not thinking, it's not imagining. Maybe there will be new language to describe these new creatures. But what I wanted to ask, I didn't get the title of this positive film, of the second one, the cartoon
Oh,
with the little
sorry.
robot.
Yes, I see you've asked that, Dorota. I think Andrea's going to nod her head if I get this right, but I think it's called The Wild Robot. Yeah,
Yeah, the wild robot. Okay,
the
thank
Wild
you.
Robot. Yes. Um,
Thank you.
and yeah, no, I think I think this is actually the first time this is the first time we've done this session. So I think just with the feedback here, I think we'll maybe make more of yeah this kind of concern around accuracy. Obviously I've kind of focused in on carbon and equalities, but yeah, I think it is a real concern and
I don't think you should lose that. I think those are really important points because it is reflecting back the world as the internet portrays it, which is not necessarily what we would wish, frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about all the bad things that happen or all the prejudice things that happen, you're absolutely right. And the use of carbon is immense. So I think you're absolutely right to say those.
Yeah, it might be like with anything else, it's almost like what you get, it depends on your own ability. Yes, if you don't care and you think that, oh, that's the truth, that's your own limitations. Yes, but if you, as Rory said earlier, you prepare something and then you just need a summary of it, there is still your input, your intelligence, your efforts in it, and then you just using it intelligent way. Yeah, not just for creating fake news or fake images on your social media, but yeah, like doing a quiz. That was really a nice example for me, because we are just thinking about something like this and it's like, oh gosh, this hassle with the thinking about the answer questions and answers and things like, and that, yeah, I think it depends on our own intelligence how we use it. Yes.
Shona asked a question back there.
yeah, I saw it. I was just coming to this. So yeah, so Shona, you're asking how do we teach? And I guess you're asking about how do we teach AI differently? I feel like I feel like I'm gonna put
Yes.
this to Jane, but I mean I guess I would say it's about the information that's gone into the tools. So I guess that the developers of for example ChatGPT need to be responsible and think about what's inputted into these models.
I guess
And
where my question is coming from
yeah,
is I'm sort of thinking about how when you look at the inherent issues within the system, like racism, for example, or sexism in some way, do we perpetuate the problem by asking it questions like, what does a professional person look like? And it just keeps spitting back to you, a middle-aged white man. Um, because I've seen those examples lots on places like LinkedIn. Like people love to talk about the benefits of it and the downsides of it. And there's lots of examples of, when they've used ChatGPT, for example, and it's kind of thrown back something that most of us would think might be problematic in some way. Are we just perpetuating the problem by asking those questions of a system that's going to just give you the same answers all the time? So how is it purely on the programmers? Or is it on us as well and the types of questions that we're asking it? Or is there a way actually for us to go back and say, ChatGPT, you're wrong? And, and also and almost like feed it the information, I guess. I mean, I'm not sort of, I'm not sort of expecting that I will be spending lots of time sitting there typing into ChatGPT, this is how it should be. But I guess it's how do we interact with it in a way that actually creates the kind of future that we want it to have, as opposed to the one that it is spitting at us right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting point.
I think there's two answers. Can I butt in here, Rory?
Please
While
do.
you think
Yeah.
about what your answer. I think there's two answers to that. One is what Rory was explaining is that you can get out of it the information that you want by changing your question. So you can, when you get an answer back that you don't like, you can refine your question so that the result you get is the one that you want to see. But that doesn't at all alter the database that it got it from originally. That won't affect what the next person who asks your question gets. And
Right.
that's the difficult thing.
That answers my question. Yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of what I was getting at. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I think I was going to say a similar thing. So yeah, there's probably responsibility on both sides, but I mean, what we as kind of people from community groups, obviously, I don't think it's been anyone here's power to kind of change the model that ChatGPT is kind of reading off. But yeah, we can obviously change the prompts. But yeah, hopefully, society will create better models, I suppose.
It depends what we flood the internet with.
Mhm.
I mean, at the moment, we have President Trump in power, and there will be huge amounts of things that reflect his worldview, and ChatGPT will keep working on that. If it finds other things, that's great. But so I think I'm really interested in the tools, the way you're using the tools, Rory, to say, if I give it something I believe in the first place, like that BBC article, great. I'm prepared to believe that, and so I can get it to give me information based on that. And I think you're pretty safe there, so it's really useful for that. It slips up on Kirkcaldy, but hey, lots of people get that wrong.
And there was I mean, yeah, to keep adding cautions, there was an article I just came across it last night, and haven't really had a chance to add any of this in, but I think the BBC actually looked at summaries of news articles that have been produced on by AI, because obviously that I think will become a kind of trend in journalism, is that reporters will write articles, and then these articles will be kind of summarized across the internet. And in about 50% of the time, when a reporter who knew what they were talking about looked at the summary, they were like, no, actually, like, we're not happy with that. So yeah, I think, and certainly for now, like, we still need the humans. We need the people to actually be kind of looking at these things and checking them, and actually making sure that they are correct. Because yeah, the machines just aren't getting them right yet. So
I think for me, the productivity tools and maybe the illustration things are the most useful, because if I can get it to summarize something that I've written, I'm very, very verbose when I write, then having it say, you don't need all that, squash it down. And I make sure that's okay. I wrote it, it can be summarized. Or, if it's a BBC article and I want to put it up on Facebook to show to people in the village, then one line summary, and I'll see pretty fast if that one line summary is good, and I won't spend 15 minutes scratching my head. So, I'm sure there's lots of useful things like that it's great at.
Yeah. Good points. Thanks everyone for coming along, participating, asking some really interesting questions.